Okay, with that, we'll take our question number 4 here. It has to do with Lake Winnipeg. We've seen in many ways some unprecedented unity among the farm community in Manitoba this summer in opposing a piece of legislation passed earlier in the summer, Bill 46, the Save Lake Winnipeg Act, which essentially puts a ban on hog barn expansion in place. And in 2006, the Lake Winnipeg Stewardship Board, it showed that almost half of the nutrients going into the lake actually come from outside the province, and obviously people in governments outside the province don't have the same vested interest in reducing nutrient movement that producers around the lake and here in Manitoba have. Meanwhile, Manitoba livestock producers have made and continue to make strides in improving their nutrient management through beneficial management programs, that sort of thing. The question here, if your party is in power, what are you committed to do to secure the future of Lake Winnipeg while at the same time not stifling the growth of agriculture in this province? And Kate Storey, on behalf of the Green Party, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, well, first of all, we have to get away from arguing who's responsible for which nutrients. We are all responsible. It's our lake, and we each have to do our part. Now, nutrients have value. The smart farmer is going to do everything they can to hold back that phosphate and nitrogen and prevent it from running into the rivers and lakes and being lost. We'd rather grow crops than algae. But governments can help by setting real standards that work for farmers and make us use good agricultural practice. We really need to regrow those wetlands in every drainage ditch and catch those nutrients, keep them back before they get into the rivers and the lakes. That's EG&S, Environmental Goods and Services. We're hopefully going to get to that. The bill, I can see why that bill was put forward. It just makes common sense that you have to match the spread acres with the number of barns. Some municipalities were producing far more manure than they could manage. But that's a failure of the technical review system that's supposed to protect farmers from overexpansion.
All right, thank you, Kate. So Monica, on behalf of the Liberals, what's your response to this question?
Well, we believe that our water management strategy system that we'd like to put in place, we would definitely be starting with $20 million to ensure that we do have a good water strategy in Manitoba to save what we do have in terms of farmland and to get farmers on the field, all places throughout Manitoba. And yes, we do have to talk to, municipalities and taxpayers and farmers across the province as well as our neighbors to effectively dam up water, slow it down before it gets to Lake Winnipeg so that our marshland capacity can ensure that the water's clean and we don't flood our Lake Winnipeg or Lake Manitoba or whatever. So and put chemicals and nutrients in Lake Winnipeg. So we believe that our $20 million strategy, our long-term strategy for municipalities as well, is definitely going to at least give a start to us because nobody else is willing to do the hard thing in this province, and I don't understand why.
Cliff, the PCs, surprisingly to some, supported the Save Lake Winnipeg Act, or Bill 46. Maybe explain what your party would do to balance the future of the lake with agriculture growth.
All contributors to nutrient loading need to be involved in the process of helping restore the health of the lake. We'd like to recognize the fact that agriculture producers have taken great care to manage the landscape. On behalf of Manitobans, they use beneficial management practices, adopt new technology aimed at limiting their impact. The Manitoba PCs support an incentive-based approach to help producers adapt to changing regulations regarding agriculture and the environment. As I mentioned before, we're releasing further details of our ecological goods and service program in the days ahead. They will focus on how to address water quality and quantity. We have also announced a strategic infrastructure fund that local governments can access to source funding for a broad range of infrastructure projects, which of course would include wastewater treatment projects. These type of projects will also help reduce nutrient loading. We also need to work with our neighbors throughout Lake Winnipeg watershed to adopt strategies to help reduce the nutrient loading wherever possible.
Thank you, Cliff. Stan, your response to the question?
Sure, Calvin. Well, first of all, actions speak a lot louder than words. And we've been acting for 12 years, putting forward measures that have started at least to make a difference with Lake Winnipeg. But I mean, there's lots of other lakes that we need to be concerned about as well across the province in terms of nutrient loading. Bill 17 was the first piece of legislation that we brought forward. The Conservatives opposed that. Hugh McFadden has said that he would undo that Water Protection Act. At the 11th hour, they kind of sneak a vote in there on Bill 46, kind of a political vote that they made to try to cover themselves in terms of water protection. Because people want to protect the water, but the Conservatives are offside on this. Our basic premise is that anyone who contributes to the problem needs to contribute to the solution. So we don't understand why the Conservatives would let the City of Winnipeg off the hook on that. We're being straightforward with the City of Winnipeg. We're being straightforward with agriculture. We're being straightforward with cottagers. We're taking the action necessary to protect our water. We are also, and I've said this very clearly, we're ready to meet with all of the groups that you've mentioned before. We've got a very good working relationship with Carl Tynock and the pork producers. We talk honestly with each other. There's no kidding around when it comes to this. The pork producers have been very clear with us, and we've been clear with them, as with all the other groups. We're not going to solve this problem by skirting around it. We're going to solve this by acting and speaking bluntly and directly with each other.
Any quick comments from any of you?
Yeah.
Keep them short.
Cliff was saying about water treatment and plants like water treatment plants. The cost of building a water treatment plant in Manitoba is about $8 million. But if we put in the Liberal plan, is to ensure that the water is held back, slowly drains, goes through marshland. We talk to municipalities, we talk to producers, we talk to taxpayers, we find out who is draining, who is holding, bring in the ELLIS program province-wide. We believe that this will be more cost-effective for taxpayers in Manitoba rather than building water treatment plants where it cannot be sustained.
Monica, you misunderstood what I did say. I said include wastewater treatment plants, and that's quite a bit different than what you've been talking about. Let's be clear, Lake Winnipeg is worse off today than it was when the NDP came into office. They have done nothing after 12 years, and they won't going ahead. We have a plan to move forward after 12 years of NDP algae. We will listen to the scientists. That's important, and we will have all of the players at the table. All of the participants, all of the stakeholders need to be at the table.